But Death Stranding wasn't a good game either.
How much? All right, so how much? How much?
Whoa.
Gosh, no, hold on.
Let's start this again.
Mute this man. Mute.
I plead the
this
fifth.
mic.
Okay, so
I like to walk around in a video game and piss on things. You do that in real life.
Sean, don't start this right now, bro. Just don't start it. Don't start this, man.
Hey, let me ask you. Let me ask you this, Dave, because we're talking about like development and budget and all this. I mean, how much do you think Last of Us 2 cost to make?
That easily could have had a budget in the area of $75-100 million.
I would say $100 million for that game.
How much do you think Animal Crossing took to make?
Probably in the area of 30 to 40.
Okay, Animal Crossing sold like 3 times more than Last of Us 2.
Yes, Nintendo is one of the companies who has the right idea where they create games that have worldwide appeal. And we know Sony is ditching Japanese appeal. They're focused purely on the Western market, and they don't care about making those games that cater to the entire worldwide audience. And that's where this is a very risky move. It really is the Marvel effect.
Here's the thing, though.
Blockbusters.
Here's the thing. Oh, sorry.
It will work, but as a fan of the company, I don't like this direction. This is not the Sony that I grew up with. This isn't the Sony that I loved during the PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, and even PS3 era, or even part of the PlayStation 4.
But what if a game comes out that they spend all this time and money on, and it's a Days Gone all over again? What if it doesn't work?
Or it gets canceled?
Yeah. See, here's the thing I don't understand. That I think, Nate, you might have said it, that they're reacting to the industry or something like this.
Yes.
Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo are 95% of the industry. They don't need to react to things. They need to be the ones that are setting the standard, that are setting the trend. They don't need to follow what other people are doing. That's what really puzzles me, because you can see it with Nintendo, what their vision is. It's been the same pretty much for the past 10 years. It's worked better, obviously, in other situations than it has in previous situations. Wii U to Switch, they figured it out. Microsoft, same thing. Their philosophies have changed drastically, and now they figured out what works for them. And it's like Sony was the top dog with the PS4. So why are you changing up things when something is working? You don't fix something that's not broken.
And that's what's really baffling about this move. And we can look to Nintendo as an example. They have said, we look at the profits of a game like Animal Crossing. It goes out there, it sells 30 million copies. It cost us a fraction of what we made in revenue. And we use that extra funding to put it into games like a Bayonetta 2 or a Splatoon that we're not sure if it's going to sell, and it may not make that initial investment back. That's how they use experimentation. They take the games that are making tons of profit and they trickle it down to projects that probably aren't going to make their budget back, like a Bayonetta, and they're fine with funding that. Sony seems as though they're becoming that company of, we want to make $1 billion on all our releases, and we're not going to trickle any of that money down to fund smaller releases. We're just going to put it back into that sequel. So Uncharted 5, you made us $500 million. The budget for Uncharted 6 is going to go up to $300 million, and we want to make $1 billion. That is not sustainable. That is ripe for a bubble burst.
That sounds like EA and microtransactions.
Yeah, it does sound like EA, and that's a frightening idea if Sony is, following a trajectory similar to EA.
I want to talk about your point, though, like with Sony. I see what all you guys are saying, and as a fan too, and I was a big Sony Japan fan. Obviously, I like Sony Japan. That was my favorite studio and what they did, Gravity Rush and all that. But I mean, like, there's also maybe just a little bit of responsibility on the fans for not supporting the stuff that they did do.
Sure.
Because every single game that we talked about from Sony Japan, all these games that we mentioned, like Legend of Dragoon and Folklore, all those games like somewhat flopped. I'm researching for a video. I might do a video. I'm not. Gravity Rush was like an omega flop, and people will talk about marketing and stuff like that. But dude, we knew about the game. People just didn't buy it. Everybody, hey, you buying Gravity Rush? No, I'm not buying Gravity Rush. I'm buying Resident Evil. I'm buying something else. People just said, no, I don't want to buy Gravity Rush. So there is just a little bit, not saying everything, but there's a little bit of responsibility on the fans to actually support some of these quirky games and stuff. and the fans didn't necessarily do that. So, like I said, I agree with you guys, and I agree. Like,
I mean,
I don't like the
And that
vision
can
either,
also
but,
lie on advertising. If they didn't
no,
do a good job advertising
exactly.
Gravity Rush, then no one's going to know what Gravity Rush is.
You're right.
And that
you're right
happens
about
with
that.
films all the time. Example, they
some
poorly
games are
marketed Blade
some
Runner
games are just set to
2049.
fail from
No
the
one saw
moment
it.
they're launched. Like they have no chance, right?
Absolutely,
That's the
I
other
agree. I just think that I did see a number of people just say, "No, I'm not gonna buy the game. I don't want." They know about the game, and just no, I don't want to buy it. I'm gonna buy
And it's
Resident
easy to
Evil.
see that within our echo chamber, right?
Yeah.
On the internet, on Twitter and YouTube, we all hear each other and we see each other. But you could go ask a random person in the world, same age, who doesn't do all this. They have no idea about half
They've
this.
never
Just go to a
heard of it.
GameStop and
Yeah.
ask them.
Like
Yeah.
it's easy to get lost in it's definitely being talked about or it's definitely not being talked about based on where we sit in our online spaces. And
Right.
Someone
I
needs
think
to
there's a
say,
couple things.
someone needs
What's
to say
weird
that.
though
Oh,
is
no.
that this is a complete reversal of what Sean Layden said several years ago of, hey, that blockbuster didn't break even, and we're okay with that. Sony was okay with a new product that they were putting out not breaking even because they wanted that diversity in their software lineup. And what we're hearing now is that they do not want to do that anymore. They want to give the tried and true success stories. And as a business, I understand it. As a fan, this is just really disappointing.
Disappointing.
There's
Yeah.
a couple of important things that we all need to, just to look at with this. That this is all right now. Like we have no idea what Sony's actual plans are. This is all based on a lot of this right now. I don't agree with a lot of the decisions they're making. If it's smart for business for them, I understand why they're thinking certain ways, even if I disagree with them. And then that's up to me as the consumer to decide if I support that. Do I want a Last of Us remake or not? Am I going to buy it?
Oh
I'm
gosh,
not going to buy it. But the other thing we have, like with Days Gone, like the problem, like with that game specifically, because I went and played it, right? A year and a half after it had already been out and done with, and it's a solid game. It's a forgettable game because it came out in an era where there's a million zombie games, a million third-person action shooter games, and it got lost in the shuffle. And that's why it's easy to go, oh yeah, that's a game that came out. And I can easily see where Sony goes, unfortunately, there's too many of that. We already have this, and it sucks. Well, I would like to see Days Gone 2. And maybe that's still something in the future, but that's just not what Sony has plans for now, unfortunately. So I do think that this is a right now thing. I don't think 100% Sony could stay on this path and continue being a forefront leader in gaming and innovating, doing the same things over and over again. We're going to hit that point, like we said, where everyone's going to get tired. They're not going to go buy the same game with a different skin over it. And I think we're starting to see a lot of that fatigue already in other spots of gaming. This is going to be another one. If that wall has to be hit, we are going to hit that wall. They're not worried about Microsoft as much anymore. Microsoft's not worried about Sony anymore. Microsoft's not fighting a console war anymore. Microsoft's fighting the subscription war. They're light years ahead in building the subscription war. The Game Pass compared to what PlayStation Now offers is night and day. And I think Sony doesn't 100% realize that that's where a good part of their focus needs to be, when right now a lot of their attention is on these big budget, cinematic games, as well as tying them into a lot of their other stuff. Because just like Microsoft, Sony is not just a gaming company. They have a gaming division that they like to, of course, tie into other things where they can. If I can make a movie about a game, why not? If I can make a game out of a movie, why not? And I think that's especially right now where storytelling is what drives television shows. So where a Last of Us could work as a television show, it gives you that 8 to 10 hours to get to these characters and understand the story. A 2-hour movie may not work because it doesn't, you can't have enough time to really get these characters done right. I think the big problem that gets overlooked with that is something like when you're playing an Uncharted game. The big story notes are the in-betweens. It's not just the big action set pieces. It's the story you get by just exploring and walking around the world and hearing the characters just casually talk and learning their personalities. It's not just based on quick one-liners like the MCU is known for, and then big action set pieces. There's a lot more there. So
do we need a Last of Us remake?
No. And while people make the argument that, well, technically it's 2 generations old, it's gotten a remaster, it's gotten a refresh. It is perfect right now.
This is why I think they're doing it now. Is I don't think it's going to be by itself. I think it's going to be part of a bundle
Collection.
package.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be with whatever the Last of Us multiplayer is gonna be.
Oh, dude, they're gonna Abby. I think they're gonna Abbyfy it a little bit more too. I think they're definitely. I think they're gonna add in some to give some context.
Please take that word out of your mouth, my God.
They're gonna Abbyfy it. Then she'll put some more abs in there.
I think
I thought you meant like play the bad guy and beat your heroes to death. I'm
No,
sorry.
I meant like
I think
look.
they'll show
One
like
of the problems with the game was that Abby was just kind of a force of nature that came out of nowhere. They didn't mention her. If they add more context to Abby in the first game, like a remake, and kind of show what she's doing, it'll make the second game a little bit better when people play that on PS5.
I've never disagreed with you more.
I don't think it's a far off stretch to see that when the remake actually does come to fruition and it's actually out there, that the reason that it's out there is to attach the original multiplayer with the new tweaks that they wanted for the second game. I 100% think that's an easy way to sell the multiplayer where all the money currently is in being done. And Naughty Dog, handling a Last of Us remake for them would probably be pretty simple, unless they are going to do a major rework and tweak of it, which I really hope they don't. But if they don't, it's really just kind of reskinning everything and kind of reshooting the cutscenes and a lot of just
let's be real here for a second with this studio that like was trying to impress Sony with something, and they came up with the idea of remaking Last of Us. That's not. I don't even think that's a good idea to try to impress Sony with. Like I don't really know where that idea came from.
But
maybe
they
impressed Sony enough that Sony took the project from them and gave it to Naughty Dog. And my problem with this remake is that this is a waste of Naughty Dog's talents. This is why you have a studio.
That's what I felt as well.
I agree.
Bluepoint is your art restoration developer. This is what they specialize in.
Yeah.
Having Naughty Dog dedicate their time to the Last of Us remake feels like they could be working on a brand new project.
Something else.
They should not be on.
They are quickly. I feel when I hear the name Naughty Dog, I can't even think of all the other great stuff they've done, all the other ventures they have, the ideas they have, because it's starting to really feel, even though there is Uncharted, sometimes it feels like the Last of Us studio. I was talking with some other friends the other day. I'm like, it just feels like I'm only hearing. Yeah, sorry, I have other friends sometimes. It just feels like it's the Last of Us studio. Oh, what's happening? Oh, there's a Last of Us show that they're helping out with. Oh, there's the multiplayer they're still working on. Now there's a remake of the first game. Well, where's an update on anything else? Like I'd take an Uncharted update at this point. Like give me anything else, because honestly, like the zeitgeist has a lot of Last of Us right now and not a lot of anything else from them. And I would like
bring
to
back
see
Way of the Warrior.
I was going to say, give it to Bluepoint. Bluepoint is not a first-party studio. Bluepoint has their own projects, and they may be working on something else. Bluepoint could have turned around and said, "We're not interested in doing that." So you can't really assume that that's what was going to happen.
You should be able to find an external studio to handle this remake. It should not be.
The reason why they want to do this is they want this to be they've already remastered the game. Obviously, this remake is going to be something incredible, right? It have to be.
Incredibly $70.
It's going to be like a huge remake. They're going to make it towards like it has like PS. It looks like a complete PS5.
I know, but even then, with even if we want to try and pretend that Naughty Dog are the best developers in the world right now, that feels to me weird, because it still feels like having like Leonardo da Vinci fucking teaching an art class and doing macaroni pictures or something. Like, why are they going back and doing this again when they could have handed it off?
Because it won a lot of awards, and they're gonna ride off of that wave.
I mean, it's gonna look good whenever they
like
show
macaroni, Max. I like macaroni.
I guess I'm playing through Last of Us again.
How much better can it really look?
Okay,
it can't.
It's go ahead. Sorry.
I just played Last of Us for the first time last year. Like I bought the remastered version and I played it. And I was expecting it to be like, oh, it's aged a little bit. Everybody was talking about how good it was. And I was like, this is actually held up pretty well. My only complaints are obviously like the mechanics of the game, like the shooting, their lack of a dodge button. When I went straight from Last of Us for the first time to Last of Us Part 2, even just the addition of the counter dodge element was huge. So if they were to improve on specific mechanics, sure, I can understand that. But am I going to play it again if there's not substantial changes or additions to it? No, because in my opinion, the remastered served its purpose. And I don't know. I'm going to sell home to the fact that I do think their resources could be used for other things. And it just makes me upset that they would rather kind of, I don't want to say beat a dead horse, but like spoil potential for the next however long in the foreseeable future, to work on this project.
And
It's just a
The
little frustrating.
game's only gonna turn 8 years old this year, by the way.
And you can already play it on your
Only years.
PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
You can
This is
play it on
like-
current gen consoles. It's fully looks fine on these new gen
Yeah,
consoles.
it
It is
sounded great.
optimized for it.
Yeah.
Like it to me, it just doesn't make sense why anyone is wasting time, assets, or talent
Right.
to put into this. I think it's a masterpiece in gaming. That first game, it still
Yeah.
lives on. It still works great. Could it benefit down the line from some tweaks in mechanics, like you said? Absolutely. There's some things in there that can be improved upon. But maybe in another generation cycle, maybe
Yeah.
in some more time has passed, especially when we just had such a big controversy last year with The Last of Us 2.
Yep.
And I think there's a lot of now distrust in, all right,
Yep.
well, what's going to happen with a remake? What are you going to do with it? Are we just remaking it one for one? Or are we remaking it in the sense of it's a remake reboot? We're changing everything.
It's going to be Joel, and Joel's going to be looking out the window and it's going to go, you know what I really hope doesn't happen? I hope nobody ever hits me with a golf club. That would really suck.
Yeah, I foresee it being like a Metal Gear Solid PlayStation 1 versus GameCube thing, where Cyborg Ninja, it becomes like Jesus Christ and is like flying all over the place, and Snake is doing Matrix style dodges that make no sense. I can foresee it being taking the original source material and changing it, which I think Last of Us diehards would get pissed off about, because you're retconning that original story.
Wait, why did Dreamcast?
Well, I mean, that's what they're doing with the TV show, aren't they? Why did Dreamcast?
Well, yeah, now they
Why
got
did,
this.
why did you say that?
I'm a troll, man. I'm a troll.
No, but I mean, it could be a tongue-in-cheek thing like that, depending on what Naughty Dog wants to do with it. But yeah, I
If
mean,
they do that, that's going to be the end of Sony. If they do
I just don't understand.
that, so,
Oh my God.
I don't understand why you're pandering to your HBO show.
Well,
Who's-
I mean,
who's
I'm
watching this show? Who's watching
am-
this show?
I'll check
Last
it
of
out.
Us fans. That's it.
oh,
This isn't going to
I
bring in new
wouldn't- I
people.
Hold on.
No,
I wouldn't
no,
consider myself
that's
a Last of Us fan.
that's
I
where you're
think
wrong
there's
on
gonna be a
that,
lot-
Sean.
I think
No,
there's
the
gonna be a
whole
lot of
Walking
exposure.
Dead bullshit is over.
No, and that, no,
No.
you don't
HBO
understand the
back
effect
brings
of an
a new
HBO
audience,
show.
and they're going to look to it and say, yo, what's this based on? And if you have the Last of Us remake launching right alongside that show,
Yes.
all different people are going to search for that source material. They're going to,
Yes.
they're going to buy a PlayStation 5 to play that game.
Yes.
And, they're hoping to basically make it the Game of Thrones, the Lord of the Rings, to
The
get
Witcher.
And that's not even the effect that I'm even considering. Like, yeah, while that is going to happen for some people, I think the effect of having it as a TV show is going to bring people who don't care about games into the story of that show. HBO, for the most part, is very good at making shows that are very well done story based. And
Yeah.
if they have the right writers, the right team that have done their other shows, which I believe they've gotten on board with this, then there's no doubt that this is going to premiere if it's done any iota of the correct way that it needs to be for to match the first game, or unless they completely decide to change the story up, which time will tell then. If it's great and it's great storytelling and it's great writing and it's a great team, then the show is going to do great on its own without the video game player base watching it at all.
Well,
There's a whole group of people, and me included, who love Game of Thrones, maybe minus the last season, but love Game of Thrones, right? Who have never read the books.
Yeah.
I'm one of them. I have not read the books, but I really enjoyed the television show. It captivated me. Storytelling.
Wait, no, stop.
who never played a Witcher game or never read a Witcher book, but the Witcher show did big things for The Witcher 3 in terms of game sales
yes.
because it just sparked new interest.
But that Game of Thrones reference is exactly what I'm alluding to.
No, I didn't go read the book.
You never bought the books. So did it really help?
But if you look at the
It became
actual amount of
it had
people
its
who
own
picked up
audience.
books,
That's what I was saying. It didn't need another audience. Like, yeah, it can benefit from the original source material audience, but it can get big enough based on just people's excitement. A lot of people get into stuff without getting into the other source material. I think that show is going to be big on its own without any help from the fans of the original game.
Well, you also have to think too, and I wanted to say it earlier, but I'm glad we've moved on to the topic of the movies and the shows anyway, is I'm curious to see if these actually are going to be good. Ghost of Tsushima was like one of my favorite games last year, if not my favorite game. And so like I personally hope that it does well. I don't want it to fail because it's like I love Jin Sakai. I love the whole story, and I hope that they are able to kind of like give respect to that whole, history and culture and everything. But you also have to think with that it's going to come the marketing, yes, for the show, but also there's going to be merchandise off of it too. And that's a whole other line of things that a video game itself would not pull. And I think Sony can, if they do well, like this is potentially a lot more money for them. But again, we're running off of the history and the preconceived notion that everything video game related that becomes a movie or a show is garbage. I think Witcher is probably the most, recent positive like piece of work that we've seen recently, where yes, it was a book and then it became a game. Most people nowadays know it from the game, but it did well. And I think that, in a way kind of restores my faith and my hope a little bit for it. So it does suck that we're losing quirky, smaller, more experimental games, but maybe Sony has those dollar signs in their eyes and they're like, this could be something great. And again, I think it'll be a cycle. I think maybe they'll ride this wave for a while. And then before you know it, hopefully some new IPs come out. I don't know. I don't know what's in the works for Sony, but I'm not freaking out too much. It is sad, but I mean, I hope the shows do well, and I'm looking forward to them.
Don't you think it's, ironic and sad that, Kojima wanted to get into Hollywood with his game, and
no, I think they saw that.
He left Sony, and now they're greenlighting all these video games as movies.
He already made a movie.
I'll tell you this right now. No one in their right mind, unfortunately, would have greenlit a Death Stranding movie. Or
I would have loved it. Are you kidding me?
As much as I would have been intrigued by it,
loved it, dude.
I don't think I'm a fan of Death Stranding, but you hand that script to anyone in Hollywood, anyone who's making this stuff, and they say, "What did you just?"
Ridley Scott.
No, Ridley Scott has had his fair share of mess ups when it comes to his own Alien universe. So
give it to Michael Bay.
Please do not give it to Michael Bay.
There'd be a fucking transformer come out of the goo.
Let me take an abortion.
That'd be all right.
Is that what you guys are saying? The game didn't do.
No, here's the thing.
The game would be fantastic.
Here's what I'm saying with Death Stranding. Death Stranding works so well because it gives you that immersive video game feel. You are in that world. That's how the storytelling works. Whether you like it or not, that's how the game operates. If that was turned into a movie, to a show where you're not in control, you don't get these moments to fully experience yourself, you lose a lot of what the game is trying to bring to you in a show or a movie sense. And I think that's why a lot of video game adaptations do not translate well, is the player control, the aspect of being there within the world and controlling the environment and what you're doing.
I think in contrast though with Death Stranding per se, like Death Stranding, if it was more handholdy, maybe people would like it more. I feel like it was too much, like you could walk around and it was too open sandbox for people. Like the reason why I love Death Stranding is not just because like later on the story really does hit deep. And honestly, if they launch Death Stranding now, post COVID, like the parallels that game has, like I had bought it for Steam to try it on my new graphics card. The parallels that it has had based off of what we've gone on in the world lately is insane. But the fact that it was a new IP and they experimented with it and it didn't do as well as I think that they were hoping it to, I think that also in a way probably scared Sony as well, because it's like, this is big budget, this is a big deal, we've been marketing for this for years and it still didn't sell well. It's a new IP, it's a new idea. Not a lot of people are going to like it. If you don't like it, that's fine. If you didn't play it and you don't like it, I think you're missing out. But it's something new, and that's what I really like about it, is because you can't really compare it to anything else.
We're gonna move into Kojima here soon with the Xbox talk and all of that. Also, there were a lot of people who were like, I don't know, would appalled be the right word? It's like what went on at Sony with this story, but like basically everyone just got a look into what generally goes on at some of these bigger companies anyway. So like, did everyone forget what is going on at 343 right now? Like, it's no. And we just don't hear about or see any of this stuff. It just, Jason just happened to get a bunch of stories about it, put it together in an article, and you hear about an IP sequel or a sequel for Days Gone getting denied, and this one studio having a project taken away, and it's like that.
And that's only part of the story.
That generally goes on. So it's like everything that happened there is just the business side that we don't see. We just see the final product. If you want to see one of the craziest developments is definitely God of War, and Sony actually just put that out in a documentary. So you would never know it was that bad.
Yep.
I think the Herman Holst angle is also interesting to read about, because, he ran Guerrilla Games, right? Yeah. And then when he became the head of Worldwide, he was declining budgets and stuff. So I mean, he was in there making games with Guerrilla, so he knows about budgets, but then only to turn around and say, nah, well, you're not going to get a budget for this game. So and weird. For them to kind of disband it. It's very, very interesting to see that. I mean, I get it, when there's a change of the guard, if there's new management, usually they try to lay their claim and make their own moves and stuff. But this one felt a little strange to me that, you know, he would just kind of decline that budget for that team, especially on new PlayStation 5 hardware where, I mean, people don't know the hardware very well, right? And you do need more resources to, you know, to get things done. So I thought for him to turn around and say, no, you're not getting that budget was quite telling.
That is interesting. You're right. It is, because we're hearing Sony and money stuff coming up, and it's like, well, we're watching Microsoft throw quite a bit around.
Yeah, right. Billions and billions.
Sony just made a huge deal. Sony just made a huge deal in their other department, you know, like, so I do think that there's enough funding to fix a lot of maybe a lot of their concerns or woes with how they're going to operate. They just made a huge Netflix deal for their movie side, but again, if they want to, you know, since they're going to start having more control of the Spider-Man stuff, they could easily just market, oh, then this Spider-Man comes out, here's the next Spider-Man game, you know. I do think they're going to start tying a lot more of that in to build up their revenue back.
Gets pitched within these big companies all the time, and then a lot of times things get denied. So it's like they just don't hear about it.
There's a million projects you don't hear every year.